Hi, I'm Alison. Welcome to Dream Chasers Adventures in Happiness, where my band of superhero guests and I share with you tales of daring do, life-changing journeys towards living our best lives. If you're after an injection of inspiration and ideas to live the life that you want and deserve, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hi there, and welcome to the show where we serve up conversation, concepts, and belief that it really is possible to create what you crave. If there's something stopping you from pursuing happiness, whatever that looks like to you from a career or lifestyle point of view, the stories and insights covered here are designed to help. Now today, I'm joined by my awesome friend and long-term client, Sian Aherne. Sian spent 20-something years in PR and communications, but she's often really pondered purpose and fulfilment and what else life could look like. After numerous false starts over the years, she's finally taking a leap. Alongside her day job, she's now a certified nutrition coach, and she's working one-on-one in small groups and also with corporates to help people feel more energised and improve their mood. But the road to this new career path and building her own business has not been a straightforward one. Like so many of us who really want to make heartfelt, purposeful changes, Sian has battled with fear and self-doubt and procrastination. So today we're going to talk about those very real challenges that so many of us face and the approaches that she's taking to deal with them, which are really helping her work towards her goal regardless. So welcome to the show, Sian.
Hi, thanks for having me. Good to
Brilliant
be
to see
here. Likewise.
So to start off with, can you share a bit about what drove you to explore different types of work outside of the career you've always been in? You know, like what was it that ultimately led you to nutrition coaching?
Yeah, it's a good starting point. I think, being in PR and comms, there's a lot going for it. You know, there's varied work, varied clients, you're working on fun campaigns, there's a lot of networking, you get to meet lots of people. All that's kind of well and good, but I think I had this sort of growing sense that none of it was really moving the needle for a bigger purpose. And I was sort of questioning what was I contributing, sort of in a bigger picture way.
Yeah.
And I think it just felt a sort of slight lack of fulfillment in sort of what I was doing. So I think it was really that sort of purpose piece that I felt was missing from my work.
Yeah. It's interesting. I remember when we talked about this, quite a long time ago, and I think we did some personality profiling, and you came out. It was a kind of Myers-Briggs type thing, and you came out as the advocate, and a huge part of that person, your personality profile, is about purpose. And it's
Yes.
it's more important to some people than others, but it was a kind of central thing that everything revolves around.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, absolutely. And it was really eye-opening for me, that, because I think, we also did values and strength and sort of other things like ideal day. But yeah, the personality test where the advocate came out, it was like, wow, that really matches up.
Yeah, people are often really psyched out or frightened when they do these things, and it comes back and it's like, it feels like me written on a page. It's taken a window into my soul.
Exactly.
Okay, and so that purpose piece sort of drove you towards the idea of and exploded through it with all the other things, exploring and coming to that conclusion that nutrition coaching was really the thing. I remember also, I think we talked about it feeling like you wanted to be a subject matter expert in a particular area, and that was quite important.
Yeah, that was really interesting as well. And I think, I was always really inspired by people who could speak in depth about stuff, people who were really, really knowledgeable, and whether you'd hear people on, at events, or your clients who really were subject matter experts, or even people on podcasts or whatever, listening to people. I was really inspired by that, because I think working in comms and certainly the nature of agency work is that you end up knowing a little about a lot. I just wanted to go deeper. I just wanted to get, a bit more understanding of something.
Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, so after a lot of self-analysis and exploration, you determined that you wanted to be a nutrition coach, and then you qualified as one with the intent of building your own business in the space.
Yep.
But then, and I think in your own words, you found yourself getting in your own way.
to say the least, Ali, yes. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about the challenges that you faced in that whole getting in your own way thing, and as you tried to make those moves in that direction?
Yeah, sure. Gosh, there's been so much of that, like getting in my own way and talking myself out of doing anything. And I think part of that is kind of the sort of, I guess, staying in the comfort zone. You know, like I was paying the bills, I was going on great holidays, I was having a really nice time. And I think, you know, I was like, well, why would I do anything that's kind of going to rock that boat? It's so much easier to stay kind of safe and easy. And so I think that sort of comfort zone, you know, it's just such an easy place to be.
Do you know, and yes, I get a lot of this with a lot of the clients that I work with, and I felt very much like this myself before I changed. The idea of staying in a comfort zone where it's familiar, you've got a paycheck coming in, and it's a scary move to think about doing anything else, and the fear that it might not work draws you back. Except that, and I know we've talked about this, whilst our brains tell us it's a comfort zone, staying where you are isn't actually all that comfortable if you know in your heart of hearts that there's something else that you also want to be doing.
Yeah, that's a really weird, it is a really weird place to be. And I think we worked on something like this, where you were challenging me, is it your comfort zone? And I think there was it was two lists, and you were saying kind of staying in a comfort zone, the reasons why it isn't, and kind of getting out of your comfort zone and the reasons why that is, a better place to be. And I was putting examples down under each thing, and they just kept on coming. And I think, I just thought, God, there's, you know, this comfort zone is a myth. But it was, you know, how do I get from that one place to the next? You know, you could see it written on paper, but actually doing the thing. So
you dispelled, and it's really interesting this idea. And if for anybody who's sort of struggling with this idea of stepping out of a comfort zone, you actually dispelled it as a myth by finding concrete examples and ideas for why it wasn't good. Like staying where you were and just doing what you were doing wasn't your comfort zone. Yeah. So you were proving to your brain that it was telling you a lie. And sounds like a really daft thing to do, but it's really powerful. so powerful. Yeah.
And
so you worked a little bit on that, and then I know that you felt quite a lot of the time kind of paralyzed by fear, and the idea that, you know, you might not be good enough to do something else or to make that change or to make it happen. Are you happy to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, that sort of narrative, I'm not good enough, is, you know, starting to be conscious of that was really powerful, I think, because it sort of crops up not just in this, you know, this journey, but also in other areas of life as well. And I think it was quite eye-opening kind of how often that showed up. But there was definitely fear around kind of being found out. Like if I did this, you know, I'd be an imposter or an intruder. And, you know, there's obviously a lot of people, very successful people doing this stuff. And so there's no room for me, you know, a lot of this kind of fear of failing, all of that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of fear, but yeah, that...
It's interesting, this, and that whole compare and despair thing, I think it happens to most of us. Particularly when you're starting out and you're trying to do something new and you feel like there's a million experts that have already been doing it for many, many years and are miles ahead of you. And I think what's important to note here, and I think this links back to some of the work that we got you doing, was that it's just, firstly understand that this is just the way our brains operate. You know, we are wired to, you know, we are wired to avoid things that are new and different because you know, our brains want to keep us safe from harm. And so, you know, our brains act like a threat detection system and kind of are looking out for things that rock the boat, that cause us to think about doing things differently. And it doesn't like it. And so it puts up lots of resistance to those ideas, you know. And so it'll help throw up thoughts, whether that's I'm not good enough or you know, I can't do this, or, you know, whatever those thoughts are. It does a lot of that. And I think what's really important for people to know is that you can retrain that. It's a function of the way our brains operate. You know, and we end up with quite set thought patterns typically about ourselves and what we're capable of and what's possible. But it's not set in stone. You can absolutely retrain your brain to think differently. And I know we played around with some of this stuff and around this idea of not feeling good enough to kind of shift that perspective and you know, that typical mindset.
I think with this you had me write down reasons I am good enough, which felt really icky to start with. You know, and I was like, oof, couldn't really think of stuff. And then I thought of stuff, then I ran out of things. And then I just started making stuff up, because as you were saying, like, it's about retraining the pathways in your brain. And so whether it was true or not, I just
whether it even feels true,
made it up.
It's really important. It's really important. And again, it sounds funny or just like a bit odd, and like how could that possibly change the way your brain is wired and thinks? But basically, our brains are telling us that something's not possible, or we're not good enough, or we're not capable, and those are lies. In the same way, they're made up. So you're just making up additional reasons why you could do it and why you are good enough is equally as valid, but actually more so because it's true. And the more you do it, sorry.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say that was the other thing I remember from when we really first started working together. And you did that test. Is it true that? And you would, you know, I'd sort of say this is my belief, and you'd be like, is it true? And you'd make me say why it wasn't true as well, which I think was quite a powerful one.
Yeah, it's just challenging your brain to think differently, which our brains don't like very much at first, and it feels very uncomfortable or just like a nonsense. But the more you do it, the more it sinks in, and the more you physically rewire, you create new neural pathways that help you think differently. So, Now, I know one of the other challenges that you faced with this is that it felt like there's no linear path to follow. This whole nutrition coaching thing was a new area. Can you share a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, sure. So I think kind of the I guess precursor to that is I've spent a lot of my life, I guess, knowing what an end goal is and mapping the steps to get there. So from school to college, you know, that's pretty straightforward, but like then to uni, and then what I needed to do to get onto my postgrad course, and then kind of rungs on the career ladder. And you know, you can plot point to point, I need to do this, this and this, and I'll get there. But I think this whole sort of shifting into nutrition, like, you know, I still don't know where that's heading really. And I think it was quite hard because I didn't know where I was heading or where I am heading. It's quite difficult to, you know, you can't map out the steps. And so it was quite hard to let go of that the safety of that structure, really. And so, it sort of feels like delving into the unknown. And that is uncomfortable.
It's very, you know, and this is something, you know, for anybody who's thinking about setting up on their own or doing something, you know, or being entrepreneurial in any kind of way. This is one of the biggest barriers, I think, because there's no breadcrumb trail. There's no specific kind of formula or path to follow, because it's you're making up your version of nutrition coaching or, you know, whatever else it is you might be sort of setting yourself up to deliver. And it's like a blank piece of paper, and it's really difficult because, like you said, most of us have grown up and we've done everything's kind of been fairly easy to map out, and you know what the obvious next step is, and so you just work towards it. But when you don't, it can very quickly stop you from doing anything, because you're like, well, you know, I've got no idea. And the really important thing with this, what I always say to people is it's all about experimenting. It's sort of getting comfortable with the ambiguity and not really knowing what's going to work and what isn't, and just taking some steps to try stuff, because that you learn from it and it helps you adapt what you're doing, and then you try again. You know, using those learnings, you adapt and you do something slightly different. And if you do it enough times, it works. So, and on that vein, and again, I know you did this, you know, in terms of then thinking about the sorts of moves you might make, because it was all a bit like, it could be anything. You know, there's no prescribed path here. We started getting you taking kind of micro moves, taking an approach that was sort of like baby steps to get things going, to sort of build some momentum.
Yeah, it felt like, I felt like this sort of, you know, I guess it's that sort of cliche thing about like looking at a mountain and thinking, well, you know, I'll never get to the top, and sort of trying to scale it back. And I felt like taking the small steps felt like I was tricking myself. You know, they felt easy, they felt manageable. And so, you know, it didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm, you know, got to do this massive great thing now. It's kind of taking the small steps that I could take that ultimately would ladder up to something bigger. Yeah. And I think the more of those that I took, and some of them then became, it, you know, ultimately was a small task, but, you know, it felt kind of big and scary. You know, like there was a I sent a video to somebody in the industry that I, you know, wanted to work with, and so I sent them this video to sort of saying, you know, I'd love to come and work with you in whatever capacity. And I sent it off, and then I realised it was actually a terrible video. I forgot to include my name. Like, it was awful. But it was, for me, it was less about the outcome, and it was more about the process and just experiencing that kind of feelings of, you know, like, this is okay.
Realising the world doesn't end if you take a step and it doesn't work out and it doesn't pan out and it's not perfect. It's actually okay. So taking those really small moves, you know, it really helps build momentum. And then when you mix them with power moves, so the bigger types of moves that potentially kind of, you know, often as not take longer to come to fruition, or they're a bigger piece of work, you know, there's more of an investment. When you mix the two together, that really starts to kind of power you forward. Yeah, there's a couple of sort of, I guess, the earlier things that I've done around, you know, like corporate workshops and things like that. You know, I'm just kind of stepping into those and you know, those feeling quite kind of important and big. So yeah, it's the kind of blend of those bigger things and letting whatever happens with them happen. Yeah. And I guess through all of this, you know, as you've been doing this, I remember you saying to me, it made me laugh, that all of it kind of felt a bit like let's pretend.
Let's pretend, yeah, it was. Because I think what's really, I guess what is really great for me is that I have you know, I still do my freelancing on the comms side of things. And so, you know, sort of what I'm doing on the nutrition side is a little bit like, well, just sort of pretend I'm this, and, you know, pretend it just feels a bit like make believe a little bit, and that's really helpful as well, because it sort of lets go of the seriousness isn't the right word, but, you know, it sort of relaxes it a little bit.
Takes the weight off of it a little bit, so that you can sort of just sort of kind of enter it with a mindset of play as opposed to serious, this has to work and it's a really big thing, and if it doesn't, it's a nightmare and I've failed. Instead it's like, oh, let's be a little bit playful. Yeah.
It's a nice
and that
approach.
mindset really helps. It really does. I get people play, you know, it's the idea of play. I think we get so caught up and we're taught that, you know, playtime is for, you know, relaxing and whatever, and like work is serious and it's the thing to focus on. But actually, when you bring a mindset of play and you just experiment and have a go at things, your attachment to the outcome is much less kind of serious. Which just allows you to kind of like try things and, you know, and then you get feedback on what works. And then that helps you inform what you might do next, and you adapt and you grow from it. And you're much more likely to end up, you know, drawing into the right result than with that kind of mindset of this has got to work, and it's otherwise I'm going to look like I've failed and it's all terrible, which just then stops you in your tracks, stops people doing anything.
Yeah, it definitely takes the pressure off, for sure.
So you've been navigating all these challenges for a while. Like, where are you at now, and like, how do you feel?
I guess it is a bit like this sort of let's pretend thing. It feels a bit silly, and I guess when I talk about it like this, it feels a bit hilarious as well, because of all this sort of getting in my own way and thinking you're not good. Like nobody cares, and and all the negativity is just my negativity holding me back, and so I sort of feel like it's just stupid. Just crack on, That's a really important point. Really important point. Nobody does care. And we attach such importance to what people are thinking about what we're doing and whether or not we're successful. And the genuine truth is, people are in their own lives doing their own stuff. Nobody cares. No one's paying attention. Your loved ones and the people that know what you're doing might ask you how you're getting on, but that comes from a place of support. So yeah, it is. I love it. I love the fact. Yeah, it's bonkers. Like, it's completely bonkers. You just, you just do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got another client who had been struggling with this same kind of thing, and then eventually she came up with this saying for herself. It was just, "What if I just did it?"
Yeah.
If I just did it. So every time she finds herself struggling to kind of take the next step or be challenged with whatever feels quite scary or daunting, she's just like, what if I just did it? And then she just does it. And then she's like, well, that wasn't anywhere near as bad as my mind was making it out it was going to be. And then she feels really good, and it's prepared. Yeah, she's propelled forward. It's brilliant. And, and I guess, how does it feel now that you're really engaging in this and, you're building this business? You still got your day job, you're still doing, you're still doing your comms work, but you're now, how does it link back to this idea of purpose we talked about at the beginning? Like, how is it making you feel all in, actually taking steps?
Yeah, I mean, really, like, I guess it just feels right. Like, it just feels kind of, like in flow, I guess. It's like, it does feel messy and a bit stop and start, and, what am I doing quite a lot of the time? But actually the bigger picture of it is, I'm actually feeling quite positive about kind of the path that I've chosen, and actually I can now see so many opportunities of where it might go, and maybe using some of the skills I've got from comms background, and looking at kind of the world and where we're heading in terms of food security, food environment, and all the rest of it. And so just feel like there's a whole new world of kind of ideas and opportunity. So it just feels kind of exciting as well.
I love it. Oh, that's a great point about it creating, or now that you've been working on some of those things holding you back, you can see the opportunities, and it feels exciting as opposed to like an impossible task. Then that draws you into just doing more.
I mean, I still do I still am fearful sometimes, and
I am exactly the same. When you do new stuff, whatever it is, and I think that's human. I can't think of any clients that I've got that just breeze through with whatever it is they're trying to achieve or change. It is whenever any of us try anything new, it is an absolutely daunting thing, and it can feel horrible. Really scary. And like, when I started this podcast, the first few, just like the fretting and the oh god, and it's now I feel a lot more comfortable. So I've been doing it for a bit, and it's amazing. But it is that initial like, oh god, I'm what's it going to be like?
What have I done to myself?
But the more you do these things, the more actually, and I talk with a few of my clients around this idea of little acts of productive discomfort. Which, when you start doing it, feels horrible. But the more you do it, actually the more addictive it becomes. You're like, it's okay, and nothing terrible is happening, and I'm learning a lot, and actually it feels like I'm being, you know, a bit adventurous, having a go at these things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but I'm having a go. And like I said, the more you do it, the less of a thing it becomes, until you know. And I know I've got to a point with quite a lot of the things that I try, and I think new things, where it feels quite exciting to go, right, I'm going to try and do something I haven't done before, and I'm just going to be bold, act of productive discomfort, off I go.
I love it. That's such a good name for it.
It is. Oh,
so good.
Well, listen, you know, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, you know, vulnerably sharing your challenges. That's a bold thing to do. I really appreciate it. But it's something that so many people, I think, will resonate with. Thanks so much for doing it.
Yeah, no worries.
You know,
thank you.
If anyone's interested in learning more about your nutrition coaching and exploring how it might help them, you know, whether that's personally or through their organisation, like, where can they find you?
Yeah. Well, email, Instagram and LinkedIn probably, if you...
Brilliant. I will include your
won't
details.
spell them all out, but yeah.
I'll include them in the show notes so that people can find you. And
thank you. Yeah. Please
Fabulous.
do get in touch if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah, I can attest Sian is awesome.
Thank you.
So that's it for this episode, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. And I really hope it's normalised the idea of fear and self-doubt and procrastination. And, you know, if these things have been holding you back from pursuing the kind of change you really want, give some of the things that Sian's been trying a go. Because you might just find they really help. And if you know anyone who could do with listening to this conversation and Sian's experiences and insights, please do share this episode. So until next time, just know that I believe in you and your ability to conquer any challenge on the road to feel good change. So go do your thing. Thank you for listening today. I hope our time together has got you thinking about your own adventure in happiness. So please do get in touch. I'd love to hear more about your story. And why not join our Dream Chasers Unite community? There is nothing better than an adventure shared. Until next time, be brave and go create what you crave.